Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to the Zelda 2 Max Randomizer Tournament. Today we have RCS versus Trailz, our very own RoseCitySaint. And Trailz, sorry, I didn't mean to abbreviate his name. Joining me on comms will be Jackamus and Melee Wizard, and I'm going to throw it on over to you guys.
And hello, and it appears the race is already a bit underway. I am Melee Wizard alongside Jackamus Wedge. How are you doing today?
Oh, fantastic, buddy. I won a race earlier tonight. Doesn't get much better than that.
Ah, yes. And as you can see in our trackers, we're starting with kind of sort of a lot of stuff this time around.
Well, they won't be hurting for accessories, as they both have a nice leather glove which you can drink water out of, and boots which allow you to walk on said water that you can later drink out of your leather glove. They also have a raft which will let you not quite walk on the water, but glide over it to another part of the world, and a hammer which smashes things, and a key which opens doors, but sometimes you stick it into enemies and it unlocks their death.
I think that's what the sword's for. Anyway, we do have, we're a little short on health with only 3 bars, but with this many items, and with both up and down stab already, we're going to be seeing some high-end stuff from our runners today.
I think so, but in that vanilla magic container cave, I've got a few moblins at the start there. It gave Trailz Z the business there, but he's coming back in here with a fresh start, and he just mows through them. A few more moblins at the end. These ones, the orange variety, which you can see in the dark, but all we've got is a 500-point bag, similar to the 500-point bag that RCS just found in the vanilla heart container cave.
Yeah, because of all the items that we've already got, and RCS finding Palace 1. Because of all the items that we already have, there's probably going to be quite a few 500-point bags, which will... Our runners don't need that many levels, but we'll probably be seeing at least in the 5s and 6s at the least going into that at the end.
It's entirely possible that our runners have started with every single item and spell they actually need to finish the seed, but we'll just kind of have to wait to see how things unfold from here. We've got RCS inside of Palace 1 as mentioned, and looks like Trailz Z is inside Palace 6.
Yes, it's starting to look that way, yeah.
And just like that, we've got a horsehead fight for RCS, so first gem is going to be placed in less than 3 minutes. This is looking like a lightning seed so far.
Yeah, and well, just like that, Trailz is at Barba as well on attack 2, but it looks like Barba doesn't have that much health either, so it's kind of balanced itself out there.
Yeah, that lower health bar definitely going to help there, but at attack 2, even if attack 2 is rolled a little high, doing at most 4 damage sword swipe, so... And yeah, it looks like it takes 6 hits to take off one of Barba's HP bars, so definitely on the low end for attack 2 there, but Trailz Z, an old pro, should be able to finish this off here and place his first gem very shortly to keep pace with RCS.
And RCS finding our 3rd palace on the Western Continent, Palace 4. But we don't have Reflect, so there's really no reason to go there right now.
No, not as of yet, but if the runners do find Reflect, it's usually a pretty quick palace to complete. And Barba is down for Trailz Z. Barba worth a nice chunk of change at 1,000 points. That's going to be a good amount of levels here.
Oh yes, definitely. That on top of placing the gem, which is only going to be worth 10, which kind of sucks. But hey, you just got 2 free levels from the boss fight by itself. Oh, okay, burning the gem, never mind.
I think that's the right call there. The levels are still so cheap, you might as well. So between the two, we've had 2, 3, or 4 room palaces. Not the same one, so you have to imagine when Trailz Z finds Palace 1, he'll have a quick gem, and if RCS elects to go into 6, there's another quick gem for him. So the torrid pace of this seed continuing so far.
Oh, yeah. But it's still early. The seed can still troll us one way or another.
Absolutely. There's always that perhaps all-important Thunder spell if Great Palace does require you to defeat Thunderbird. Also, Great Palace itself could be hidden behind the flute over on that second continent, since we know for sure that it's not on the first one now.
You know, RoseCitySaint finding the medicine cave. See if we find something good or just another pea bag.
We'll find out very shortly as RCS elects to use that fairy spell and just fly over the bridge full of mostly invisible enemies. Make things nice and easy. It looks like there was some kind of drop there. It wasn't visible, so probably a magic pickup. And we've got the cross.
Is it a great item? No, but it is useful.
Unfortunately, as to date, there is no flag to use it as a secondary weapon like in Castlevania, but wouldn't that be awesome?
Oh, as in like the boomerang in Castlevania. Okay, yeah, that would be interesting. Not sure how it would work in this game, but. And Trailz is our first one traveling to the east. Not sure. I'm not sure if you ever saw Palace 6.
Stroll out in the ocean.
Yeah, not sure if you ever saw Palace 6, but he's heading in this direction at least.
Trailz Ed completed Palace 6.
I meant Palace. I meant P1. I'm sorry.
That's okay. I forgive you this time.
Should I be concerned? Anyway, Trailz finding Naburu, so I get a free spell here.
Also known as Firetown for those of us without the lore.
And RoseCitySaint finding P6. I was trying to get a red magic jar, I see. And, well, there's Reflect.
And Palace 4 is now certainly on the table with that Reflect spell unlocked. Did not see the cost, but it's certainly there, and Reflect is usually not a terribly expensive spell, so in all likelihood it should be castable at Magic 3. Saw the pause menu again there, did not see the cost. Trailz very quickly going in and out there. And RoseCitySaint looks like he's confirmed at 6, and he's decided not just yet.
That does find another item cave.
And this item cave, I believe, is Vanilla Heart Container Cave, and we've got a magic
nice.
container.
Always a nice thing to see.
Magic is very important in this game. It's quite useful. In these flag sets, it's not too often that you'll require any spell in particular, but being able to cast spells willy-nilly all over the place greatly helps with your survivability. And Trailz Ed found a cave with an item inside, but is opting not to pursue it at this time.
Well, when you have as many items as starting off with as our runners do here, I'm not. Who knows if item caves are really what you want to hunt down?
Well, speaking of items, we've just got another one. We now have unlocked the mysterious power of night vision goggles. RCS in the Magic Container Cave, we know this to be a 500-point bag. Don't think he's going to particularly object to those extra experience points, though.
Not when you're that close to a level, sure. And can get Magic 3, like, real quick. And Trailz finds Old Naburu. Old Kasuda, what am I saying?
It's called Thundertown.
And it has the spell this time around. quite expensive right now. Won't be able to cast it right now. Though it won't really matter until we find nukes.
RCS heading over to Eastern Hyrule as well now.
I see the water tile on Trail's side, and the Valley of Death as well.
Trailz with a real heads-up play there, just waiting on those desert tiles for the enemies to spawn, because they spawn much further away from you on the desert tiles than they do on the graveyard tiles, allowing him to dodge an encounter, get into that ocean tile, and pick up the item, which was points, which leads to another attack level.
Oh boy, an encounter with a lot of Lizalfos. That's always lovely.
Oh, those Lizalfos encounters can be prime experience if you've got an affordable Thunder spell. And looks like Trailz Z's going to wander into the Valley of Death. We've got plains encounters on the tiles, so it shouldn't be too difficult to make their way through.
And with enemies that aren't really that threatening either. I say that, well, he was on, like...
Trailz Z was definitely on fumes at that point, yes. And RCS has indeed pulled the old man's finger, and that's going to allow him to use the Reflect spell.
Oh, there's another palace close by. Well, physically close by.
Trailz Z with good random encounter manipulation is going to get one on the tile, and no, perhaps I was mistaken earlier. It looked like they were grass tiles, but this one is in fact a lava tile encounter.
They might be right at the border between north and south.
You know what? I think you're absolutely right there, as the path does go up just a little bit, so this would be right in the middle of the map, and there's Great Palace at the end of Death Valley.
There's Vanilla. Okay.
Vanilla is not necessarily a bad flavor, though, Melee Wizard.
Well, yeah, I agree there.
Well, we now have Trailz Z, after using enough NA to go back to the start, has just walked right into Palace 1. We know that this is a pretty quick one, but Trailz Z heading left here, perhaps electing to search for the item that's inside this palace.
Perhaps, maybe trying to find a magic container or something.
And we've got a lot of nasty blue iron knuckles. That's not making things any easier here. RCS has gone all the way through the item cave that Trailz Z found in Eastern Hyrule and elected not to check the end of, so we should be seeing what that item is momentarily as well.
And that's a dead end in P1, and there is the trophy. I don't think we ever saw the town of Rando, but that could be where Thunder is.
Entirely possible, Melee. Trailz Z still heading left in Palace 1.
If you're gonna be digging for an item, P1's probably the best option, just because it's not that big.
It only has 12 rooms, yes. It's quite small compared to all the other palaces. Palaces 1 and 3 both well, Palace 3 has a few more rooms, but it's also quite small. The main reason players wouldn't normally want to go in there early is either lack of keys, or more importantly, a lack of glove. But we started with the glove, and as a wise player of this game once said, no glove, no love, but tonight, we are loving it.
Trailz heading to this dead-end room that had a pee bag at the end. He's still going for it, though.
He is close enough to a level. Thinking a few more stats can't hurt right now. On the other side, RCS did pick up his candle, and Trailz Z is going to take that magic level up, and we're starting back at the start of Palace 1.
Yeah, I figured he was gonna up A there since he was so deep just to get to that point. It was just faster to up A.
Oh yes, absolutely. Quite the trek to go all the way to that long dead end when we know that the path he's on right now leads directly to Horsehead after this fairly simple hallway with just a couple iron knuckles, if memory serves.
And RoseCitySaint following, more or less following the same path Trailz did.
For the most part, yes. Just picks up that 500-point bag over on the Ocean Tile on East Hyrule, and we've got a Horsehead boss fight for Trailz. And Horsehead is down at 15 minutes and 10 seconds, so that is going to be the second gem for Trailz here. RCS heading his way through Death Valley, and yeah, it looks like it's right on the divide between the north and south portions of the map there, because we did see that plains encounter, but we know once they go north there, they're going to be into the Death Valley random encounter zones, and with those death pits, those can be a little tricky at times.
It does make finding that candle pretty valuable, just so you can actually see where the enemies are, without and not necessarily have to burn a fairy spell to get past it. You know, Trailz is venturing into Palace 4, has the reflect spell. Why not?
Yeah, I think this is the right play here, knowing that he's got everything he needs to clear this palace out. Trailz finishes this one up, and he can spend the rest of this race over on Eastern Hyrule, I would say.
Yeah. It's just a matter of which palace does he find first. Because he's pretty much, outside of potentially Thunder, he's pretty much got everything he needs to finish this seed right now.
Outside of Thunder, yes, you're absolutely right, Melee. RCS still working on that tricky encounter, gets through, and he's going to discover that Great Palace is inside Death Valley, and looks like he's going to elect to... Thought about walking back, but decided better, and is going to up A and start over from Western Hyrule's, well, Hyrule Palace, or Castle, place, whatever you want to call it.
Finding Mido. Mido is pretty much useless. We already got everything out of there, unless you really wanted to go for a hint, which we have enough stuff that I don't think hints would really be that helpful at this point, at this stage of things.
No, most likely not. With the trophy, at least in RCS's possession, he can go ahead and basically get any spell that he wants, so finding that Thunder won't be too big of a deal if it does end up being necessary. The only thing we're not necessarily sure on yet is the cost. And yes, indeed, that old man loves big bots and cannot lie.
And it is a fire spell out of Ruto.
Yeah, fire spell. Don't think we've seen a fire proc on any spell either players have cast yet, so could be useful just to cast it and see what other spell it's tied to.
Perhaps. Well, it looks like Trailz found the item room in 4. And it looked like he was going to walk out of it, but as he was getting the Doom Knocker out of the way.
Just getting the right position to beat that Iron Knuckle up, and no, it's just a 500-point bag. That will get him to Magic level 5, and going to keep going from here. RCS also just entering Palace 4, and as predicted, we're going to find that first dead end that Trailz did as well. And based on how both of these players play this game, I wouldn't be too surprised to see RCS wander into that item room before inevitably finding Karok as well, the way that the palace is laid out.
There's another dead end for Trailz.
I believe we've seen all 3 dead ends so far, plus the item room, so next time he heads, that should eventually get to Karok.
Trailz backtracking some. I wonder if he knows something we don't.
I believe Trailz has already been in that elevator shaft before and just didn't elect to go left. So this would end up being the correct way. Or perhaps not.
It's another dead end.
Yeah, Palace 4 can be a little confusing in the randomizer, the way that the drop shaft can just kind of mess with you just a little bit.
Well, it is Maze Palace for a reason.
They should have called Palace 4 Island Palace and Palace 5 Maze Palace, because Palace 5 is a maze. I would be surprised if either of the players in this race elected to actually try to go through and complete Palace 5 at this point.
Oh yeah, I'd be amazed. Maybe if it was their first palace they find on the east, besides GP, but it's just a matter of what will be faster, hunting down another palace or doing 5.
And I think that's entirely up to the player's discretion. At this point, they'd know that there would be a pretty quick palace on Maze Island. It does have to be 2 or 3 at this point, and those are both fairly quick, especially 3.
And it also helps that you already have the boots, so navigating Maze Island won't be too bad.
Depending on the layout, absolutely. Having the boots coming into Maze Island can be quite a boon. There's always guaranteed to be crossing through there, and depending on the layout, you could skip every single forced encounter tile on there.
And apparently our chat has noticed that fire is linked with jump.
Indeed it is, Melee Wizard. So, not perhaps the most useful thing for our players. Jump has some situations, but I don't think it's going to come up too often, unless, for example, RCS heads back into Palace 6, ends up going the wrong way, and decides that he's become Canadian for a day, and doesn't want to fall down that legendary, infamous Canadian hole.
So it looks like RoseCitySaint was just passing through where Trailz did, though Trailz went down, RoseCitySaint's going up.
Well, Trailz already went up. We know this is going to lead to left dead end by Palace 4, so yes, it's around after this wide open room here with all the squares in the middle. And I'd say Trailz is on the right path at this point because he's gone up. He's found that infamous bridge room. Heading to the right, K-Rock should be in the next room or the one after, I would say.
We've seen so much of this place, there's probably not much left.
Yeah, and there is K-Rock for Trailz after a 100% exploration of Palace 4. Not getting the greatest pattern here. A lot of those reflected spells just harmlessly bouncing off the other end of the screen.
Yeah.
But there it is. There's the kill. Not the fastest fight, but it's complete RNG. You have no control over that. But yeah, there it is. Trailz is going to place his 3rd gem and is going to just sit there and allow the experience to accumulate. So no burnt gem this time.
Yeah, at this point, the levels are expensive enough that they're worth the wait, I think.
And taking life level 6, which is especially valuable, both players still won't have those starting 3 heart containers. A little bit of mistake on RCS's side there, walked right into the lava. I know we can't see his webcam on our rebroadcast, but he more or less just did a facepalm, kind of, oops, how did I do that? I feel like a fool, but let's keep going. And here's K-Rock.
Well, to be fair, I didn't quite look. I wasn't sure if he had enough magic for reflect prior to that, so.
much better pattern for RCS on K-Rock. That'll get him a few seconds back on Trailz here. He is still a full gem behind, having dared to brave Palace 6, but otherwise, our racers are pretty much neck and neck right now. We've got a pretty close one here.
Yeah, if RoseCitySaint can find, say, like 2 and 3 and clear them quickly, that might make up the difference there.
I kind of have to think that Trailz is thinking I should go to Maze Island because I know one of the remaining 2 easy palaces is right there, and that'll get me my 4th gem. If I'm Trailz in this situation, that is absolutely what I'm thinking. But we'll see what he elects to do as RCS heads back over to Eastern Hyrule on that raft.
Yeah, Trailz is still on the west, hunting down something. Maybe magic containers, maybe heart containers.
Trailz perhaps fearing the need for that Thunder Spell, and wanting to make sure that he's going to be able to cast it when he finds it. I can't imagine either player would be too concerned with finding heart containers. A maximum of 3 heart containers is certainly not ideal, but these are both old pros at this, and I'm sure they could both make their way through the whole game with just 3 heart containers if absolutely required.
And they do have 4 lives, so that does help. If they had like maybe 1 or 2 lives, that would be a different story probably.
And Trailz has found the very first cave that RCS found. We know there's a 500-point bag at the back here. Probably not what Trailz is looking for, and nope, he's saying, no, I don't even want that. Let's start over, try again, look for something better.
RoseCitySaint going through, pass-through caves, trying to seeing where this ends up. I guess the initial part of the Eastern Continent has already been explored.
It certainly has, Melee, and RCS definitely going through noxious pass-through caves, and I am not liking the way the way this map looks where he came out there. I think they have been in this area before.
Well, there is a town. I don't recognize this area actually. Or maybe never mind.
No, they've definitely been here before.
Yes, I saw Valley of Death now, yeah.
Fire Town, and north of that was Death Valley.
Yes, once I saw Valley of Death, then yeah, I knew we had been here before.
Trailz once again in and out of the same item cave, which we know from RCS's side to have had process back. And this pass-through cave looking a lot more promising for RCS. He's now on the absolute north end of the continent. We haven't seen a town. Yeah, we've got a town for sure. And
it is Darunia, which has nothing for us.
Nope, it does not have anything. Oh, we're blocked by a River Devil there, and we're mountain blocked there as well. So
River Devil actually doing his job. Okay,
yeah, imagine that. Unless there's another pass-through cave to get to the northeastern part of East Hyrule, yeah, this is looking a little on the fruitless side, unfortunately.
Hasn't checked the left side here. There's another town. I think by process of elimination, that's got to be New Kasuto, because we've seen all the others on the east.
Yes, we have. So it is indeed going to be New Kasuto, and RCS is around here.
And it requires 6
containers to get inside the house. So it would be very unlikely that whatever item in there would be required at this point. Trailz now heading through a pass-through cave of his own here, trying to find a remaining place to place an easy gem, or also perhaps looking for that Thunder Spell.
That was the same cave that RCS came through, and I didn't see what spell that was.
It was the Life Spell, Melee.
Ah, okay.
Yes. So Trailz is now on that northern part of Eastern Hyrule, which we know to be not as fruitful as we would like it to be.
we still haven't found Palace 2, 3, or 5 yet. And just another pea bag for RoseCitySaint. So since that wasn't another magic container, we won't be able to see what the first item is here.
No, and on Trailz Z's side, it's really possible I've gone cross-eyed, but I believe the old woman said, do you have the 8 magic containers?
It was 6.
It was 6? Okay.
Yeah, no, in the randomizer, it's anywhere between 5 and 7.
That's what I thought. That's what I thought. Well, there's the life spell for Trailz Z. With that low health bar, probably not a bad pickup to help get through perhaps some tough rooms later on in the Great Palace once we get there.
Yeah, even if it only heals 1 or 2, that will definitely be of some help.
Yeah, and it's entirely affordable at that magic level 5. Trailz Z casting the spell to go find the point bag.
That is the one pea bag in the game where you can actually use a sword beam to collect it.
Yep, cheeky.
So now it's just a matter of where do we go from here, because it's starting to look like flute might be required.
Well, we haven't seen the exterior of every pass-through cave yet, but it's certainly possible that the flute is blocking access to 2 more of our palaces there.
Well, here's the other item cave.
Yeah, RCS making his way through there. Long, empty hallway except for 1 lone Octorok, and the item is a heart container. Actually, not a bad pickup right now.
No, but now things are starting to get interesting now.
Definitely. It seems like the world map is causing a bit of grief for our humans in this race. Maybe it's not going to be as quick as it initially looked when both players had a gem placed at less than 3.5 minutes.
So, by process of elimination, Thunder's got to be in Saria. I don't think we've actually found that yet. And since we've already found, and at least on Trailz' side, cleared all the palaces on the western side, looks like RoseCitySaint is going to dive into 6, and we'll be pleasantly surprised by the result.
I certainly think so, Melee. I don't see RCS being too interested in looking... Palace 6, the item is to the right. So he's going to go down, he's going to go through this room, and he's going to be like, oh, there's Barba. This is fantastic. Let's go.
Yes, the Great Palace is on Valley of Death. That's the only palace we've been able to find on the east so far. And it's looking like the other palaces are likely to be blocked by that flute. And
it's not 100% confirmed as of yet, but it's certainly possible. And I think for all of our viewers here, hoping for perhaps a bit of a longer entertainment session here, they are going to be quite pleased if that's the case. And one thing we're seeing on RCS's side here is the huge difference between Trailz Z's Attack 2 and RCS's Attack 4 in this speed, taking out Barba much, much quicker than Trailz Z did. And as RCS goes to place this gem, well, we've got a tie ball game at this point, boys and girls. RCS might actually be slightly ahead with that trophy in possession.
And the knowledge that Ruto does not have Thunder. So here's the thought. If the flute is indeed required, we've got item from Palace, the items for Palaces 1, 4, well, 1 and 6 at least, and the 2 items in Death Mountain. I think that's more or less what it amounts to at this point.
That is certainly what the case seems to be. So we'll have to see. I mean, as viewers and commentators, we have more knowledge than the racers do, but it might be whichever one of them is first to notice that, hey, maybe you actually do need that flute. That said, we haven't gone through every single possible pass-through cave on the eastern side yet. We've only gone through 2 of the 4 between both of our runners.
So that's assuming that we have access to the other 2.
Of course, yes. We may not have access to the other sets of pass-through caves. You are absolutely right, Melee. So this may be a case where if you're not a bard, you can't get by. What I meant to say was, if you're not a bard, you gotta work hard.
Alright, so it looks like RoseCitySaint's going through Fairy Cave as Trailz finds the cross.
Still no sub-weapon functionality, unfortunately.
And
that looks like that's gonna pan out for RCS there, because we've got 2 new towns here.
I saw 3. And there's Rauru. I forgot about that. I forgot about that one.
Yes, it's Shield Town.
Also looking for hints, for potential hints for where that flute is.
Yeah, I think RCS is kind of on to what might be going on with here, knowing that the flute is looking increasingly more likely to be required by the minute.
And at the same time, Trailz finds Death Mountain.
Yeah, Trailz looking around in Death Mountain. So I would say both players are probably thinking, I need that flute. That River Devil is actually doing something on this seed, which is probably something you would see less than 1 out of 20 times, I would say, based on experience playing this randomizer. So this is quite fun.
Yeah, not very common, but RoseCitySaint did find the Thunder Spell and Raruru. I believe it cost 63, I think it said.
With 5 magic containers at magic 5 on average, should be able to cast it anyway, whatever that is. Let's hope that it was 63 and not 53, though, because that's just unfortunate.
I'm pretty sure it was 60-something, and there's a pea bag.
Pea bag and Trophy Cave, and RCS says, I've peed enough today.
Alright then. Trailz is scouring the caves of Death Mountain, looking for either the Hammer Cave or Spectacle Rock. Either one would probably work right now.
Well, if they don't have the flute, maybe neither of them work, so wait and see.
Possibly. At the very least, they would have items.
It's entirely possible they could both still have pea bags. We did start, as you mentioned, with quite a lot of fancy accessories.
Ooh, and RoseCitySaint finds the grass tile, and there's another magic container.
Probably not exactly what he was hoping to find, but it's still certainly very useful.
That does give access to the first item in Nukusudo, which could be where the flute is. Very
good point, Melee. We'll have to see if RCS to head back there. But no, RCS is going to head into one, and he's going to dig the item out of here now.
And Trailz finds Hammer Cave, decides to explore a little farther to see if Spectacle Rock was nearby, but heads right back in.
That room is an absolute beginner's trap. A red and an orange Dara. Nasty combination.
Yeah, if not just the vanilla game in general, randomizer with the enemy shuffle around, it'll force you to get good at fighting Dairas real quick. So, unfortunately, this path that RoseCitySaint's taking, we're pretty much taking to that long stretch to the dead end with the pea bag.
We do know that the item is over on that side, though. I believe you just had to go down the elevator in the Stalfos room. And then you would go into the room where normally there's bubbles bouncing everywhere. That leads to the left, and the item should be right down there.
Yeah, but RoseCitySaint's going to explore the extent of this path first, unfortunately.
Well, Trailz did the same, but unlike Trailz, actually get that item. So if it's that super important flute, well, all you need to do is give that one a toot, and there you go.
So Trailz only found, in Hammer Cave, only found a heart container. Never did see Spectacle Rock. So now it's just a question of where's this path going to take him now?
RCS heading back towards the boss room. Perhaps didn't remember how quick this palace was because, you know, let's give him the benefit of the doubt here. He did this less than 2 minutes into the seed, so...
Right.
Completely honest mistake right there.
At least that's one benefit to it being a short path, though.
Yeah, you only have to go effectively one actual room out of the way because those quick elevator shafts don't count, let's be honest here. Yeah, and RCS has figured out the layout of the palace. He's going down, and as predicted, it's all the everywhere. And he's just like, let's just ferry through this thing. Why not? Take a bit of damage. It's okay. I have life 6, and here's the item room. Let's get excited and see what this is going to be.
And Trailz finds the other entrance to Death Mountain, which doesn't have much, and oh Jesus, just a 1-up.
RCS found an extra RCS. Not what he was hoping to see. Disappointing. Well, now we have both players scouring everywhere on Western Hyrule, looking for that. Looking for their music degrees.
So now it's just a matter of how long does it take for someone to dive into 6 if they don't if that ends up being where it is?
At this point, it certainly could. Palace 6, or I think Spectacle Rock are the only 2 places we reasonably have access to where the flute could be.
Well, with that 6 magic container, RoseCitySaint does have access to the first item in New Kasuto.
Ah, yes, of course, you are exactly right, Melee Wizard. My mistake. I knew there was another one. Luckily, I've got you looking out for me, because I can't look out for myself.
Ooh, and that secondary entrance to Death Mountain was a complete dead end.
Yep, just complete and total waste of time. Meanwhile, we've got Trailz inside Shield Town, so Trailz is going to pick up that Thunder Spell.
Oh, yes. So, if nothing else, that's one less thing you have to think about.
Well, thinking is really difficult. If you were thinking in the first place, I kind of question maybe trying a little bit too hard here, you know?
It's looking like RoseCitySaint might be heading, taking a stab at that new Kasuto play, perhaps.
Yeah, definitely heading back in the direction of, for sure. Trailz still all over Western Hyrule right now. Well, Trailz's in the Trophy Cave. We know that this is just a presumably 500-point bag, so that is used to Trailz at this point, I dare say. Gonna pick it up anyway, though, because why not?
And who knows how much more exploration you end up doing. You could get a level out of it.
Yeah, you're far enough away from the starting point that maybe you don't want to take an immediate up and A if you have a couple other places to check out in this area of the map. Might as well get the points and see what enemies fall in front of you. But yes, other than RCS's advantage of dead heat right now, both players have the exact same levels and inventory outside of that one trophy. And we know that the trophy is not required, so advantage, schmadvantage, doesn't matter. We're dead even. It's first player to find the flute's going to be sitting pretty right now, I think.
Yeah, it's looking that way. Although now it's looking like RCS is kind of retracing his steps across the various caves.
Yeah, he's looking for something in Western High right now. I guess another entrance to Death Mountain, because we haven't seen him go through the non-immediate dead-end version of it yet.
Right.
And over on Trailz Z's side, he is back over on... Trailz Z does have those 6 magic containers, so maybe he's looking to head right for New Kasuto and hope against hope that that flute is right there. And there's the non-useless side of death for our...
Now it's just a matter of whether RoseCitySaint finds Spectacle Rock first or Hammer Cave first. Trailz never did find Spectacle Rock.
You are absolutely right, Melee. So, Spectacle Rock is still in play for the location of that ever...
At this point, both of our runners have got to be thinking just how far behind they might be, just scouring all over creation looking for this one thing.
In and out of caves goes RCS. But electing to cross over the bridge here. See where this comes. And Trailz Z going through a pass-through cave that we saw our... Yeah, and there it is, right back down to Southwestern Hyrule. Thanks for nothing, game. Thank you for nothing.
I believe RCS is close to Hammer Cave now.
It was in that upper and eastern area for sure. One caves on the spot of land to it. Yes, there it is. And RCS electing not to go in right away, hoping for Spectacle Rock. It's not there, and it looks like RCS is going to make the same play that Trailz did about 10 minutes ago and just go through Hammer Cave and end up extremely disappointed.
Now it's a matter of whether RCS will obey as well.
I have to think that he will at this point, because the simple thing about Death Mountain is if you get that item, you have 4.5 screens to go through to get back out.
Mm-hmm. Alright, so Trailz is getting this first item out of New Kasuto. Is this the flute? Yeah, it is.
Yes, it is. So there it is. The flute is in New Kasuto. So Trailz immediately pulling way ahead right now here. And RCS had those 6 magic containers well before Trailz did, but did not go to New Kasuto to check that out. But with that flute in tow, Trailz now, I would say, commandingly ahead. Even though there's only that 1 item difference, that is the item. That is the key to this seed right there. They have everything else they need.
And it looks like RoseCitySaint picking up that heart container and is walking it out. He's committed to finding Spectacle Rock, I think.
And unfortunately for RCS, we now know that Spectacle Rock is not going to be the item that we want. As Trailz wanders into a palace, it's 3, no hesitation. I think he's going to go through and clear this one out, because as we were talking about earlier, Palace 3 is the second shortest one at only, correct me if I'm wrong, 16 rooms total.
I don't know that detailed information, but...
And we have another extremely short palace. Down the elevator, to the right, there is the boss. This is going to be Trailz's 4th gen. He is going to be heading directly to Great Palace after this. Do not go anywhere else. Do not go to jail. Do not collect money. And more importantly, do not waste time in Palace 5. Electing not to burn the gem, though, going to take that other remaining level just in case. I believe this should give him attack level 5.
Indeed it does.
Yes, it does. Just in case that all-important Thunderbird is required, that extra attack level could save quite a bit of time on the fight. Or, because it's Max Rando, it could do absolutely nothing.
So, the more I think about it, the more... I don't really fault RoseCitySaint for not going after New Kasuto right when he got that 6 magic container, because as you saw on Trail's side, getting to New Kasuto was not a short trip. And I guess maybe on RoseCitySaint's side, the thought of maybe just trying to get through Death Mountain might, or just exploring the West in general, it would just be theoretically a shorter trip overall.
Yeah, with New Kasuto being through that pass-through cave, not exactly near the River Devil, but on the same half of the continent at least, your incentive might be to check everywhere else before you go back to New Kasuto, and unfortunately for RCS, that is definitely not going to play out in his favor, as Trailz quickly found that all-important flute in New Kasuto, and quickly found Palace 3, which was another 3-room palace, and is now firmly on their way to Death Valley to finish this seed off, hopefully.
Yeah, so...
for RCS to have a chance in this race, RCS is going to need to find that boulder ASAP, find out that it's not what he wants, and then decide to go to New Kasuto. Otherwise, I think Trailz is going to take this one very, very comfortably.
Yeah, unless GP decides to do something like be really, really mean, I think Trailz has... I fear commentator cursing, but it would take a lot for RoseCitySaint to come back at this point.
Yes, Trailz definitely in the driver's seat, and by the way, very nice of the fairy feet technique by Trailz getting through those encounters in Death Valley very quickly. But as you did say, Melee, yes, the Great Palace can have as many as 57 rooms. There will always be 7 different junction rooms, 4 drops, and 4 receptors to those drops. Usually 3 dead ends to the right and 1 dead end to the left. You need to travel through a room exiting right to find both Thunderbird and Darkling. Thunderbird is not necessarily required, but I believe is always in the palace. So this seed is not over yet, folks, even though Trailz is quite ahead. You have to think, if RCS gets in here quick enough and feels like he's behind, he might take some unorthodox routing decisions in Great Palace and just hope that that leads him to Dark Link a little quicker. Nice, beautiful leggy room for Trailz Z. And just leads to one of the 3 different dead ends exiting the room from the right. So Trailz Z going to head back. Their first instinct was to... Ooh, that was a snipe by that orange Boca. Lovely.
That wasn't what I was reacting to. RoseCitySaint's gone back into 6.
RCS, this is a nightmare scenario based on what we know. RCS going back into 6 to look for that item. We know it's not the flute. This is just very unfortunate.
I think at this point, he's just committing to it not being in New Kasuto.
You'd have to think so at this point. But I don't necessarily disagree with the way RCS is playing this. Based on what we know that it's not the right play.
Yeah, I wouldn't call it a bad play.
What RCS is doing is effectively confirming that the flute can't be on Western Hyrule before heading back to the eastern side there. So there is a certain amount of logic to that, but in this case we know that it's just not going to work out. And we've got Thunderbird over on Trailz Z's side here with attack level 5, and it looks like attack level 5 is actually playing like attack level 6 with 2 hits taking off a bar for Thunderbird each time, so the attack stat on this seed just a little bit more effective than usual. Despite the low max HP total, this should be a no-brainer for Trailz Z. Yep, Thunderbird's down to 1 remaining bar, and there's your killing blow on Thunderbird.
Yep. Doesn't matter how much health you have if you don't get hit.
Exactly right you are, Melee. That life.
It looks like RoseCitySaint. Oh, that's a dead end too.
And it's a dead end. Thunderbird not required on this seed.
Nope. And RoseCitySaint didn't take him long to find the item room here in 6. So that's good.
It's definitely good for him because we know that it's not going to be what he needs. It could still be something useful that might help him out. Push to even this thing up. It's a magic container, which is not completely irrelevant, if nothing else.
So at least he got something out of it, but it's still, yeah, he can't feel good about that.
Yeah, so at this point, RCS automatically heading back over to East Hyrule. He over here, and based on everywhere he's been so far, probably has, in fact, concluded it to be inside of New Kasuto. I would be very surprised if that's not where he's immediately heading. He is going through that pass-through cave. So...
Like I said, it was not a short... Getting to New Kasuto was not a short path.
No, it takes a little bit of trekking. I believe it was actually 2 to get there?
Yep.
Yes. But, yeah, there it is. So RCS should find that immediately once he gets there. And based on where Palace 3 was right after the River Devil, he can at least do that pretty quickly and head back to Death Valley and get into Great Palace. He's certainly behind, but it's not impossible anymore. It's not impossible.
Oh, geez, lots of birds.
And I know we can't show it on the restream, but it does have a webcam up right now. And as a fellow connoisseur of this randomizer, I'm kind of curious to see what his reaction is going to look like on that webcam when he goes into New Kasuto and finds out that the flute was just in that 6 magic container spot after he had collected his 6 magic container close to 20 minutes ago now.
Yeah, finding a brief bit of forgetfulness about where exactly New Kasuto was finding
we have an extremely leggy room over Trailz. We had 3 Focas, 2 of them blue, knives everywhere. Link's status menu glitching out like crazy. Every time that happens in one of these randos, I always worry that my game is just gonna freeze up on me. But yes, here is RCS inside the magic house, and there is that flute. And nope, looking at his webcam, he is just stoic. He knows what he's got to do at this point. So RCS, go get her done, son.
Yep.
Trailz inside the infamous everything comes up from the floor room. That one room that you can fall into that is usually not ideal. And based on what I've seen from this Great Palace so far, it doesn't have the most atypical layout. We're in the Enchantress of Numbers rooms here. Ooh, that was very close to being a disaster, but no, Trailz hangs on and falls down the Eon drop, gets Buzz Thundered, and we've got another drop room here for Trailz.
Yeah, the path continues on. And it's, oh my, okay.
Yeah, it's another go straight to the right, falling down. Usually, this is what you like to see, is those no choice to go rights after you take a tumble in Great Palace. Trailz definitely seen a good 24 rooms in GP so far, so entirely possible that they're on the right path. And as predicted, here is RCS inside the Rebonak boss room in Palace 3. So RCS should make short work of this young would-be knight, and then head to Great Palace, and maybe we can still make a race of this yet, folks.
Yeah, anything can still happen here.
And yep, RCS is going to place his 4th gem at 101 and 8 seconds. And also is going to elect to take that attack level up in case Thunderbird is required. We know it's not, but it certainly can't hurt. And Trailz is on his last death.
Trailz is on his last life now.
Yeah, one of these nasty rooms where you have to downstab your way through it. It does have a blue Foca, the bane of every Zelda 2 runner's existence. This time he's able to get through extremely cleanly, but he comes down into a honeycomb room. These can be some of the worst rooms in the randomizer. Good use of the upstab to cut above and over that red. And Trailz is going to cut through this honeycomb room, and we've got...
Oh, wow, okay.
Trailz on their last life, though, and Dark Link has been known to troll. We will have to see.
He does have shield. I want to say he has life as well, so this shouldn't be that... I think Trailz has this.
So far, so good. 4 hits, no damage. 5 hits now. 6 hits, Dark Link being very cooperative, not jumping all up in their grill. There's the 8th hit, and there it is. Trailz is your winner tonight. All of you glorious humans who have been watching and typing stuff at us should probably type the letter G twice and hit enter a few times.
As Trailz finishes with an official SRL time of 1 hour, 2 minutes, and 40 seconds. GG.
Very nice time, all things considered. This looked to be like a super lightning. But the River Devil said no. The River Devil said no. You go back to college, you learn music theory, and then we'll talk. RCS now entering Great Palace. Very unfortunate for race either way about 25 minutes ago. Difference being that while RCS could have easily gone to New Kasuto first and picked up that flute, just decided to clear out Western Hyrule, whereas as soon as Trailz got their 6th magic container, they were like, I'm going to New Kasuto. And that certainly panned out, so that is the difference in tonight's race. as far as just overall combat and ability goes, they were completely dead even the whole way through. Like, as we mentioned 25 minutes ago, we had a dead heat. Both players had the exact same amount of things collected and the exact same amount of things known. It was a close one, folks. This is one of the greatest races I've ever seen.
Yeah, it was definitely something. It could have, depending on where that fluted up, it could have gone either way.
And I'm told from the folks upstairs that our winner is joining for a quick interview very
And we have Trailz here in the booth. GG.
What's up, guys?
Oh, you know, we're just hanging out, too, and about it. By the way, Trailz, congratulations on your victory tonight.
Hey, thank you so much, man. You were cutting out a little bit. I gotta be honest with you guys, man. I was really scared.
And I completely understand that. You may want to rewatch this because this was extremely close for such a long time. Trailz Ed, without spoiling anything, I'm going to ask you, what do you think won you this race?
I've got no idea. Maybe going left in a room that RCS didn't in G.
No, it's actually, as it turns out, you
close.
you finished pretty much right as RCS was entering GP.
Oh, he didn't even make it in GP? That's crazy. I thought for sure he was getting ready to finish the whole time. That's why I was going left. You see me make all those weird plays. I was like, oh, I kept on hitting the dead end. I was looking for the dot duns in the SRL. I was so scared. I just knew he was going to beat me.
Yeah, you know, I thought your Great Palace exploration looked a little wonky to me. For your information, RCS did just defeat Thunderbird at 556 like you did, and found the dead end, is now heading backwards to find the correct path to finish up the game here. But no, Trailz Ed, this was a really, really great race most of the way through. What won you the race, absolutely, was your decision. As soon as you got 6 magic containers, you went straight back to New Kasudo, and you found the flute there.
Well, my only other options were to dig out the item in Palace 1, to dig out the item in Palace 6, or do a Spectacle Rock. So I figured I'd go do that. I'd go do New Kasudo, and hopefully if it worked out, I'd be right next to the river.
And the thing is, those other things is exactly what RCS did. I don't think he ever actually found Spectacle Rock, but he did dig out the items in 1 and 6. And even though, despite finding that 6th magic container before you did, he pretty much hard committed to thinking it was
too difficult to find. The main issue was that RCS did spend quite a bit of time looking for that Hammer Rock in the Death Mountain area, Spectacle Rock, and yeah, RCS actually had the 6th magic container about 5 minutes before you did, Trailz Ed, but he just opted to clear out Western Hyrule for the sake of, leaving everything on that side of the map in the dust. And your decision, as soon as you got your 6th magic container, to go to New Kasudo and take the easy item there, paid off hugely for you. So,
well, my next 2 things I was gonna do, if that didn't pay off, I was gonna up an A and do Palace 1 and Palace 6, and then do Spectacle Rock. I don't know what order he did his in, but I believe
he did Hammer Cave, then 1, then 6. 1 had a 1-up, 6 had a magic container.
Yes, and in between the Hammer Cave 1, RCS then Rock, but ultimately gave up on it.
Yeah, that's kind of what happened with me. I was whatchamacallit, I was looking for Spectacle Rock, and it was being too much of a jerk. So I decided to. Wasn't Hammer Cave a magic container? And that's when I realized that, hey, it was either Hammer Cave or Grass Tile. Was it magic?
Grass Tile was a magic container. I believe Hammer Cave was a heart container.
Oh, yeah. And as soon as I realized, I was like, well, I can do that, or I can do these other things. I was like, well, if that has the flute, then I'll be right there. And then, thank goodness, Palace 3 was right there. Palace 6 was just one boss room in. I see we did the same boss.
Yes, absolutely. Well, in terms of Western Hyrule, you didn't have much choice. Flute. So you each did 3 dungeons there. Palace 4 was a little on the long side, but 1 and 6 were extremely short, especially 6. And that was the first gem that you placed, Trail. So, very bold maneuver to go into Palace 6 that early on, but you placed your first gem in Palace 6 at about the 3-minute and 30 mark. RCS placed their first gem a little bit before you because they went into Palace 1, which was equally short and a much simpler boss, but congratulations on deciding to fight Barba at attack level 2 and pulling it out there.
Oh, thank you, man. Yeah, it was, I don't know, I figured I needed to place 4 gems really quickly, and I had the glove, so why not look at least? And it paid off, because sometimes that happens in Palace 6, Barbara will be ready.
Yeah, very, very bold play, but yeah, like you said, it's completely defensible. You start with both the glove and the magic key, and the fairy. You know, you can make your whole way through Palace 6 there. At low levels, it can be a little difficult, and Barba can take quite a few hits there, but it's not like it's the most difficult boss in the world there. So, you know, bold decision, but it definitely paid off for you.
Yeah, man, I was really excited when I saw Barba, because I know generally RCS, if he goes down the first elevator and sees that it's Palace 6, he'll turn around.
And you know what? That is exactly what we saw. So there as well, you know the enemy yourself, the keys to victory and all that. So very heads-up play there, Trailz. Congratulations.
Interesting. A RoseCitySaint finding his way to the Eon room from the left side.
Oh wow, I never found that room from there. I came from the.
You came from the right side, yeah. But we do know that Eon to be down and out to the right, and RCS electing not to take the drop, finds a room he's not too happy with, goes back to the junction, and not heading up. I think he's going to head back to the Eon room and take the drop now.
I'm thinking that was where he had been. But yeah, this is definitely where he needs to be.
Yeah, RCS takes the Eon drop, so we know Dark Link is just around the...
I don't know about
deciding not to get Ghost Thundered.
I don't know about around the corner. It's probably still about 6 or 7 rooms. It was a pretty nasty Great Palace. I had maybe 3 waffle rooms. There's a lot of going right, then going down an elevator, then going right, then going down an elevator. You have to go through the downstab required room, which got a Scott Piccola in there.
Yeah, that was a bit concerning because I noticed you were down to your last life at that point. So.
Yeah, that blue Foca gave you the business there, and things got very interesting. Persevere and finish out.
Yeah, well, the very first turn I made in this Great Palace, I went up the very first elevator because I thought that RCS was already in GP, and I was like, well, maybe he didn't go this way, you know? That was kind of my high anxiety, very extremely nervous because he's a really good runner, and he beats me a lot, you know? So
yeah, and you're absolutely right, and I can totally understand your situation, especially after what ended up being a relatively free location. But yeah, no, you definitely found the flute way ahead of RCS, so at that point you were comfortably in the driver's seat for the rest of the race.
Yeah, well, actually, I don't know if I could have really... Maybe an up and A would have messed me up, like, or a game over while he was entering. But, I don't know, because I kind of was just making random left-hand turns and stuff. So, what was fire linked to?
Fire was linked to reflect.
Fire was linked to jump, actually.
Oh, to jump. My mistake. I'm confusing it with the race that I was in where I didn't actually get it. My bad.
RCS finds Dark Link.
Yep.
Yeah, so RCS is going to finish up very soon. Probably going to be about an hour 14 and 30 seconds. Still a very good time for Gemmer, for sure. Just on RCS's side, unfortunate that he elected to dig out some harder items whenever he had that opportunity to take the easy item in New Kasuto and get the flute right then and there. But for you, Trailz, Ed, that worked out in your favor. You're our winner tonight, so congratulations again.
Hey, thank you. The thing is, like, I tried my butt off to just hurry up and place the gems as fast as possible and try to beat the game. And then when I hit that flute block, I was like, oh man, this is not good, because I didn't search the overworld. The northern I was missing two items in the northern continent, the grass tile and the other I forget what it is, trophy cave, I think. And I left that on the table, and I was like really scared, because I was like, oh man, RCS usually clears out sections before he comes in. So I was scared that the flute was up there and he had gotten it before me and was like already in GP.
And I do have one question in particular. I think I'm going to wait for RCS to come in the booth so I can ask you both at once.
Well, I'm not going to, even though it's probably a different question. So we talked quite a bit about how the flute was a required item in the seed, which is it's one of the least common required items that can actually lead you somewhere. I mean, the candle just helps, the cross helps, etc. But how often are you actually flute blocked in a seed to clear it?
And
so
not only flute block, but river devil block too.
Yeah,
not that often. I mean, when the three-eyed rock palace hit the streets, then it's more likely to be. GP has a higher probability of possibly being under there, or if there's a gem you have to place underneath the three-eyed rock, it becomes more useful. But in a random gem seed, generally the flute's not required. I'd say it's probably required about as much as it is in Zelda 1 randomizer.
And just to cut you off right there, Trailz, we have RoseCitySaint, aka RCS, aka River City Ransom, even though I know that's not the right acronym, now joining us to talk some glorious words. RCS, couldn't win tonight, unfortunately. Why don't you give us your thoughts on this particular race right now?
Thank you. That was a glorious introduction, too, by the way. That was the best part of the seed. That was really a spectacular seed to have 3 palaces on the east flute blocked. That was unbelievable. I must have lost at least 5 minutes just having to poke around the eastern continent like a second time, just trying to ensure that I didn't miss a cave. At some point, the panic sets in where you say, well, I either need to start hunting for the flute, which sounds stupid in your head, or I need to circle the continent again and look for a cave, which is a really unappealing option too. And I did plenty of both.
You certainly did. RCS, if it's any consolation to you, you were the first to have had the 6th magic container and unlock that item in New Kasuto, but you did elect to search all the places on the western continent first. Your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I actually thought that it might be to my advantage to have thunder required, because I had to go through frickin' Fairy Cave to get to that portion of the continent with the grass tile and the town that had thunder. And I figured that might be something Trailz didn't do. And then, of course, as soon as you see that T-Bird led straight into a dead end, I was completely like that sealed the deal. I kind of figured I was behind, and then when I saw that thunder wasn't required, I said, okay, that does it.
Well, actually, Trailz Ed also defeated Thunderbird and found that same dead end there. The main question I was asking you, whenever you had 6 magic containers, and you decided to look through Palaces 1 and 6 for the item, as well as search for Spectacle Rock, rather than take a chance on New Kasuto. Just wondering what your thoughts were on that in particular.
Yeah, Palace 1 was, I mean, that was an easy decision. Of course, if you noticed, if anyone was paying attention at home, I actually got lost inside Palace 1 on my second
Yes,
time
you did.
through.
Yes, that was something I did bring up on the broadcast, is that you would have known exactly which way to go to get the item when you returned. But, sorry, continue.
Not really, yeah.
And if it means anything, Trailz found that one dead end too.
Yeah, it sucked. But it was an easy decision to go into 1, and then you have to start debating some hard options. And I knew that New Kasuto had these 6 magic containers, and I'd found a 6th, but I don't know, call it a hunch. I didn't want to. That was a really long hike to New Kasuto if it didn't have the flute.
You were absolutely right there. You had to go 2 separate pass-through caves to get that. River Devil blocked portion on the northern East Hyrule continent there, so I can understand why you're a little hesitant to do that right away.
Sure, that hike to New Kasuto was a real bitch, and so I figured, well, at least if I commit to doing Palace 6 and Death Mountain, that's 3 items all right here, as opposed to 1 item way over there. And I kind of was disappointed in myself not finding Spectacle Rock and having to give up on it a little early. Of course, it doesn't matter when that proved to be the right decision eventually to choose New Kasuto over continuing to look for Spectacle Rock.
If it's any consolation to you, RCS, neither of you guys found Spectacle Rock, and just from watching the restream, we never even saw that boulder show up on either of you.
I saw it on my screen. It was on whatever, like, the western edge of Death Mountain. It looked like there was probably 2 caves that led to it.
Oof, ouch. So, one thought. A question for both of you. What were your thoughts when you first started and saw all the goodies that you had right at the beginning?
Jet Seed.
Jet Seed is not wrong. It certainly looks. You made a mockery of Palace 1 and you had your first gem at less than 3 minutes. Trailz opted to take 6, and Barbara was right there. Long fight, but still got to place that one really early too. So even us watching this race and commentating on it thought that, this might be one of the quickest seeds of the tournament, even though it's a 4-gemmer, but obviously it didn't end up that way because of music lessons required, etc., etc.
Yeah, my first thought when I saw all the goodies you start with was, yeah, let's go on a 45-minute hunt for the flute. Sounds about right. I don't think so.
RCS, I had 3 gems placed at the 20-minute mark, and I spent the rest of the seed looking for the flute.
Yeah, I know. People often like to tell me how behind I am because I don't place the gems too quickly, so I was a little bit behind that pace. But, I mean, it was all like everything was on schedule until you could only get to 1 damn palace on the Eastern continent, and it was GP. So that was really, really a strange anomaly to have access to that much real estate in the East and only be able to access GP and none of the other palaces. I was sort of in a state of disbelief. I was half-heartedly hunting for the flute while telling myself I missed the cave somewhere.
I totally understand that, man. It's like looking for a place to live in Charlottetown, Prince Edward Island. Real estate market looks so promising, but ultimately it's just garbage.
Well, I'm just going to take your word for it. You lost me there somewhere, but it sounds right.
Well, I was really nervous at the start of this seed that I had seen everything that you guys were going to start with, and I was like desperately begging for a reroll because I'm like, this is going to be a 15-minute restream. Like, I can't. I have all kinds of people in this room. I can't have this. They're here to see this race, and I was very happy. Yeah, I panicked. I was really happy to see that there was at least a troll, and then you have all the items, and the bosses are like 2 rooms in. I was so upset. I can't even tell you.
In these situations when there's a troll to be had, I would not have thought it was going to be something like the flute hiding 3 palaces. I would have thought that maybe thunder would be required. Thunder may be hidden behind something like medicine or trophy, and that's where your hour-long search comes in. You know, when you play enough Max Rando, those come up kind of a lot. Something like this was not something that I've really seen a lot of.
I've seen flute required seeds before for sure, but I've never seen a seed where the flute blocks you access to 3 entire palaces. This was crazy. Like this is one of those races that you know, I think people will be talking about for a long time, just for how unlikely the circumstances were. So you know, win or lose, I just want to offer a handshake to both of you guys for participating in this, because it was an absolute joy to watch you both suffer for the better part of a half hour.
Hey, thank you so much, Jackman. It's always it's a pleasure to have you and Melee Wizard on the commentary and stuff like that. Thank you guys so much, and thank you, Jinxie, for doing the restream. I was extremely anxiety ridden during this race. I just knew RCS had already got the 6th magic container, you know. And I went in there, you know, scared because I was just looking for the dot done. Because usually when I try to do stuff like this and I end up running into something like a flute block, it's like, well, it was on the grass tile and I should have took that cave. You know.
And you know, you make a very valid point there. From perspective, for a lot of our fans that just watch these races and don't play them, there's a certain point in a lot of these randomizer seeds where you find that one thing that you need in order to finish up, and based on the way that you've played, because you don't know what your opponent did, you're thinking, oh man, they did this so much faster than me, I'm not going to be able to do it, and your heart starts pounding, and you're just trying to push and just try to make something happen there. Like, the intensity is unreal, and I'm sure both of you were feeling that at some point in this race. So you know.
Sure, yeah. I mean, I know all about that. That happens in most of these one-on-one tournament races when you have a really good opponent. And I've been on both sides, the lucky side and the unlucky side. So this is just another one for the experience. But it was definitely something to witness with this flute situation in this seed. We've all been a part of GP is under 3i Rock, but this was really something different, and this one played with my head a little bit, so I guess I'm better for the experience and live to fight another day.
Yeah, I mean, I gotta
well said.
I gotta say, I've probably done. I can't even imagine the amount of seeds I've done, and I can't never think of a seed where there were 3 palaces that were gated by the flute like that. There was one Elhad joined, I think it was a weekly race, and it was like GP was gated by the flute, and the River Devil was actually doing something, and I thought that's like one time, but like this was like, you know, if any of those palaces were accessible, then the flute would have been irrelevant, but the whole seed was gated by the flute.
Yeah, I think
you both would have finished sub 35 comfortably if you could have just walked into any of Palace 2, 3, or 5 somewhere on that Eastern Hyrule overworld. But the River Devil said no, and you know, unfortunate for you guys, it was a treat for our viewers, and like I said, like, this is a race that's not going to be forgotten before too long, because this was just, you know, just one of those completely outstanding circumstances, and hey, it was an absolute treat to watch and spitball over. So you know, one of you guys had to lose, unfortunately. That's the nature of the tournament, but like, congratulations to you both for persevering and spending more time looking for the flute than actually playing the game. I just want, yeah, I know. But I do just want to ask. We'll take it in turn. First off, our runner-up, RCS. Any final thoughts on this seat?
Yeah, I mean, despite giving me the business and despite losing, this was a fun one. It's one I'll remember, and I'm going to take it out on the next guy, and I'll be waiting for Trailz in the brackets.
Yeah,
well said, buddy. Well said, buddy. I love that competitive attitude. It's gonna be good. Like, we're not done yet.
That's right. Not my first rodeo. I've been here before.
Exactly. Do you have any final thoughts there?
Nah, nothing. Just if you liked what you saw, RCS and I will. That's probably a preview of a semifinals match or a finals match. So if you like what you saw, like there's definitely more of that to come. This is just the Swiss rounds. We got the brackets coming up.
Hey, I love and respect you both, but I think you should kind of. I hope I'm here. I think he's still in what goes down in this tournament. So look forward for that later. If you guys are both done, my name is Jackinus Wedge. I've been joined by Melee Wizard. And also, please give a huge, fantastic thanks to our restreamer and tracker / host / overall amazing human, Jinxie Girl. Let's go, Bruins.
Yeah, thank you, everybody. Have a great night.
And as always, thank you so much for your continued support to ZSR. Please tune in for a lot more of the Max Rando tournament. We have many races coming up tomorrow. We have Dr. J versus Victor Santa Fe. Hopefully we're able to get that one on restream, because who doesn't love some Z2 Max Rando? But I'm going to call it a night here, and we will be back tomorrow with lots more for you to enjoy. So as always, thanks again for tuning in, and we will see you soon.